DKDB Nashville.
Hello, friends. It's your buddy Lou Pickney with you here with the DKDB update. February 27th, 2026. The NFL Scouting Combine going on right now. We're going to have some results of some interesting 40-yard dash times coming up later in the broadcast. Been a lot to parse through in the last 24 hours or so. The time-honored tradition this time of year. A lot of information coming out when the NFL Combine rolls around. A look at the latest from the DKDB, which is my personally curated, expert-curated 2026 NFL mock draft database. I'm surfacing on page 1 results for NFL draft-related queries from Google, Bing, DuckDuckGo. I'm showing up in AI results on Perplexity, Copilot. Grok thinks very highly of my possibilities this draft season. So a lot to be excited about with that. This database, I put the best of the best in. I put my name on it. No AI, no tandem efforts, no simulations. Best experts, top publications, independents. Jason Boris and Brendan Donahue are the only two people with a higher score over the past 5 years in the Huddle Reports scoring. Brendan might have a mock draft out relatively soon. Jason's will be out the first day of the draft. As you can see, a lot of people are kind of holding off for now, putting any new stuff out there. With so much information coming in from the 2006 NFL Scouting Combine. So let's get to that. Going through the defensive end list earlier. Plays into this. New York Jets at number 2. So the word is that the Jets, they haven't decided yet. Nor should they be in any hurry to. They don't have to make their pick until April 23rd. With that number 2 overall pick. Of course, something to keep in mind with the Jets, they also have the number 16 selection. But the expectation is that they'll go with perhaps Arvell Reese. Had a tremendous showing at the Combine yesterday. Put on a clinic. But it's also noted that Caleb Downs is in play, is in consideration for the Jets here. Caleb Downs went here. That would be the first time for a safety to go in the top 2 in 35 years. It's been a while. At number 3, the Arizona Cardinals. Held off as long as I could on the recording of this broadcast. I was hoping for the latest scoops, and I did. Charlie Campbell over on WalterFootball.com. Charlie reported that the Arizona Cardinals interested in Utah offensive tackle Spencer Fano. That right tackle position. Look at the photo there for Fano. Fano means business. For whatever reason, there's not arm or hand measurements for Fano, but 6'6", 308, he's got the size. But more importantly, according to what Charlie Campbell's sources are telling him, word is that the Cardinals like Fano. Now, they could still go with another position here, but strong suspicion is that they'll go with an offensive tackle. It's Caden Proctor, Francis Mauigoa, or as is perhaps going to be, as this recent reporting indicates, perhaps it would be Spencer Fano. There's the caveat. Some do not see this as a draft with offensive linemen in the top 10 overall players. But remember that offensive tackle is a need position. Very important. There's only so many people out there that are young enough and athletic enough to do it well. Anyway, Fano is excellent, and so perhaps he'll go to the Cardinals at 3. Then you got the New York Giants at 5. A lot of word about what the Giants might do here. Speculation. There's talk that Arvell Reese would be of interest, but why not? I don't think it's reasonable to think that Reese would get past the Cardinals and the Titans. Maybe he would. Jeremiyah Love has been mentioned as a possibility. Let me show you Caleb Downs. Again, some of these top guys didn't have to work out in Indianapolis. Between Reese, Downs, and Sonny Styles, Ohio State's defensive players had a very strong showing there, and they did the workouts. So Downs, I think at this point, he seems like a legit possibility for the Giants at number 5. And again, you'll hear this over and over, but it's important. There's not been a safety to go in the top 5 of the NFL draft in 16 years. Go back to 2010, Kansas City Chiefs, Eric Berry out of the University of Tennessee. But this is the perfect storm as far as there being a limited number of top quarterback prospects. NIL has changed things, so I think we're going to have a big rush of quarterbacks the next year or two, and things will kind of get settled in from there. We'll see. But more importantly, Downs is a special talent. We knew that coming into the season. He was great at Alabama. He was great at Ohio State. And that's a legit possibility for the Giants at number 5, even though it's not a glaring need position, at least the way the word is now. I think you can't discount Jeremiyah Love. Earlier in the process, I was going through and thinking, man, I think the Giants, I know you got Scatabo, but injured. More importantly, Jeremiyah Love, a dynamic running back. He's a really good receiver, too. You think about Saquon Barkley, and it has to sting the Giants to see what Barkley did. The division rival Philadelphia Eagles. Now, that's not a reason to do something because of emotion, but Love is a unique talent. And as much as there's talk of Love going perhaps to Washington at 7 or New Orleans at 8 or Kansas City at 9, that can't happen if he's gone at 5 to the Giants. Something to keep in mind. Speaking of Washington, the Commanders. A lot of talk, and this shouldn't surprise anybody, but a lot of talk that the Commanders are likely to look for an edge rusher here. And if David Bailey, who had an excellent showing at the Combine, edge out of Texas Tech, if Bailey goes to the Titans at 4, hypothetically speaking, we got Reese that's gone, Fano's gone. Then Bailey's gone to the Titans. Downs to the Giants. The Browns at number 6. Maybe they go with Maui Noah. And then here's Washington, and perhaps the move here would be Rueben Bain Jr., edge rusher, Miami. Again, people make a big deal about the arm length, 30 and 7/8 inches. It was 31 and a quarter. I don't think people would be making as big of a deal about it, but it's kind of the cutoff line. And the reasoning behind that is that if you've got longer arms, it's more difficult for a blocker to get a block on you. The old stiff arm treatment. You have room to maneuver. You can bat down passes easier as well. Anyway, but if you've watched Bain at all, you know he's a ferocious player, tremendous intensity, be a great addition to the Commanders if they got him there at number 7. The team to talk about, Los Angeles Rams. Last year, they didn't have a first-round pick. This year, they got 2. The whispers, as you would expect. My current mock draft does not have Alabama QB Ty Simpson going in round 1, but that's because I've been waiting to hear of give me a solid lead instead of just speculation. And who knows? I mean, there's lots of mysteries for the NFL draft. But there's quite a bit of talk that the Rams, as it's been explained, could use a first-round pick on a developmental QB. Someone to be the heir apparent to Matthew Stafford. Now, whether you think that's a good strategy for the Rams is one thing, but that's just what the rumor is. And so you think about the Rams, they got the 13 pick. They also got the 29. Now, if they're afraid the Jets might take Simpson at 16, that might be different. But remember, the Jets have 3 picks in the first round of next year's draft, in a draft that's going to be loaded at quarterback. Not a matter of chance with some of this stuff. Saying, have some hope, Jets fans. I know it's been a tough time. I say that as a Titans fan. That's what this is. NFL draft is all about. Hope. That's the NFL sells. They don't sell football. They sell hope. Anyway, So Ty Simpson, Martin, Tennessee. Father's been a coach at Tennessee Martin for many years. So it's interesting with Simpson because he grew up in the business. What this is, the business. Never forget that. He's experienced as far as knowing football. He's 23 years old. But he had fewer than 20 starts as a college quarterback. And historically, that has not gone well for QBs. But in the right system, he gets a chance to develop. We'll see. But there are some people that really think Simpson will go in the first round. There are people that told Simpson, as I understand it, that they expected him to be a first rounder. So to keep in mind as this process plays out. Let's talk about the Detroit Lions, number 17. Last 2 years, that Lions team has been absolutely snake-bitten by injuries on its defense. A few different options at 17, but one connection that I thought made a lot of sense for a while, if he's there, and that's the big caveat, is a name that I heard a couple people today mention as, keep an eye on that as a possibility for Detroit. Keldric Faulk. Question is, well, how large is he? Well, 6'6", 276 pounds. That 31-inch arm length, look at 34 3/8. Something to keep in mind. I mean, Faulk, solid player at Auburn. So perhaps the Lions would go there. There's also talk the Lions could go offensive line. Something to keep in mind, though, Faulk to the Lions at 17 is enough people are talking about it that I don't think it's happenstance. And one more team to discuss here, Los Angeles Chargers. It shouldn't surprise anyone. The thought is with the Chargers, they're going to focus on defensive line and interior offensive line. I still think Vanga Ioane out of Penn State, really good guard. If he's there at number 22, I think he'd be a good fit for the Chargers. I think there'll be a lot of talent at defensive tackle in this draft. Now you might think, well, what about somebody like Caleb Banks from Florida? Who's been impressive, but I've heard some, well, Banks maybe more day two. Let's talk about some players that really helped themselves with 40-yard dash time. I want to close with this for this video today. 40-yard dash. Now this obviously is not all-inclusive, but this is your defensive side players. I've them all bunched together because it's just easier this way. And it's interesting to see when some of these player positions start to show up. Lorenzo Styles Jr., 4.27. That for a safety. And the Ohio State defense. I think over time, people will look back at it and marvel at how much talent they had there in Columbus at the same time. I think particularly that championship team. Season before last, but this past year as well, another solid team for Ohio State. Boriano Pride Jr. running a 4.32 blistering speed. Robert Spears Jennings from Oklahoma. And here's one that should really stand out. Dylan Thiedemann, 4.3540. I knew he was fast. I didn't know he was that fast. And more, Dylan going to Minnesota at 18. Seems like, well, that makes a lot of sense. Now, granted, last year, South Carolina safety Nick Emenwari ran a 4.3940. And I thought, oh, he's got to be a first rounder for sure. And he wasn't. He slid to day two. As I've lamented before, my hometown Tennessee Titans could have had him, but traded out of the spot. Seattle traded in, drafted Emenwari, and won a Super Bowl. Anyway, so see that these players are helping themselves here toward the top. Dalen Everett from Georgia, corner. Another player that I think has been under the radar. We want to talk about a riser. Chris Johnson, corner from San Diego State. I had him in a prior mock draft. My most recent one, he got bumped. That's just the way it goes sometimes. But I think he's going to get a lot more talk of first round, especially the late first round. There are a lot of teams that look to be possibly in need of a corner, including Seattle. The expected losses to free agency, that's what happens. You win a Super Bowl. Your free agents end up signing, in many cases, to lucrative deals elsewhere. There's only so much you can do with a salary cap. Jalen Kilgore, nice showing. Think about Kilgore and Imanwari, both out of South Carolina. Safeties with blistering fast speeds. Nice one for Chandler Rivers from Duke. Bud Clark in there. Tario Davis. I've known about it. I mean, he's been on the quote-unquote list for a while, last couple of years. And that's where it's been helpful for Davis to develop as a player and get even better. More seasoning. Runs a fast time, and that should help him as far as potential day 2 consideration goes. Here's Colton Hood, corner from Tennessee. A lot of players, a lot of draft experts are looking at as a potential first-round selection. 4.44. And look at Arvell Reese showing up here. Corner, safety, corner. Arvell Reese. Edge. I didn't even say linebackers. Edge. Because that's where, if he's going to go in the top 5, it's because he's edge. Such a neat position. That's really something for Reese. When you put it in, and there's Sonny Stunn's like, hey, don't overlook me. We tied, pal. It's like you being tied for 3rd in the huddle report and complaining about being listed 4th. We're tied. And if, again, that Ohio State defense, I mean, look at this. Venison. Another positive with NIL. I know a lot of people despise NIL. I get that. But one positive is that programs that have established things and that you could tell had some planning. A lot of this never gets said out loud, but you can infer it because of what happens. Or a team like Ohio State was able to keep some very important players in more supporting roles that maybe they could have gone elsewhere and stood out more. Maybe they could have gone to the NFL in another era. But instead, it's financially wise for them to stick around, especially when you're in there with all that talent. And so I think more and more, that's where you might get some stability a longer term once the market matures a bit and things get caught up to the new realities of college football. It's just funny to see all those corners out of nowhere. Arvell Reese with Sonny Styles right there with him, blasting through, saying hello. David Bailey, a 4.5 40. Impressive. I mean, there's a reason he's such an effective pass rusher. Exceptionally fast. There's Emmanuel McNeil-Warren. I was wondering if he was going to run. Was some of the safeties were the last to run today, so I legitimately am seeing some of these for the first time, or maybe I saw them like I saw Willie the Third earlier. Seeing him in there. Lee technically could have tried for one more year in college. He had a year of JUCO, but it worked out all right for him. 4.52. I mean, he'll be fine. Kyle Lewis had a really good showing yesterday with a linebacker group out of Pittsburgh. Jack Kelly, Jacob Rodriguez. All these people run sub 4.6 40s. Cassius Howell. Again with Howell, like that arm length. But if you can get past that, a guy that could run a sub 4.6 40 that had 11.5 sacks against SEC competition. Impressive. Goal day. Danny Dennis Sutton, I talked about some yesterday. George Gumbs Jr. was kind of surprised that he was invited, but he had a good showing overall. Anyway, so that's a look at the latest from the Combine, the latest I've been hearing. I'll be keeping a close look here tonight, going through and seeing if there are any new mock drafts posted, updates made. Not going to throw just anything in here, of course, but looking for the best of the best. There's updates, I'm going to have them. Make sure you bookmark the DKDB. I'll have the link both in the description of this YouTube video as well as being pinned in the comments section. So that's it for this DKDB update. I'm your host, Lou Pickney. Thanks for watching. Talk to you again soon. Bye for now.